Many leaders feel frustrated that employees just don't seem to do as they are told. I've heard leaders complain often saying, "It was introduced months ago, we communicated it several times, and yet people just don't seem to comply, it's driving me crazy." So how can us leaders actually ensure that people follow our lead? How can we gain team members' buy-in in times of change? If this is a familiar dilemma to you, then watch on, listen to my story, and learn how you can do better at gaining your team's buy-in when you would like to change something in the organization. One weekend, we went on a short holiday with my friends. We stayed at a hotel, but somehow I had messed up the online booking, so it turned out that no supper was included in my package, and I only realized this on arrival. Well, no problems, I thought. Let's just sort this out quickly. I went down to reception with this thought and asked the receptionist to change my booking so I can have the buffet supper with my friends. But to my utter surprise, she turned me down. She said, "Sorry, we can't change the booking after arrival." "Why ever not?" I inquired. Her answer was brief: "Because our boss says so." Well, it was hard to argue with that. So that evening, I was sitting in the restaurant gloomily, watching my friends, enjoying the buffet supper I wasn't allowed to touch, when all of a sudden, a hotel employee came to our table, and with a conspiratory little wink, he said, "Just go on, help yourself to the buffet supper. Nobody will notice." It was a surprising turn of events, but I was so hungry, so I just went and ate. Later that evening, however, I started reflecting on this, and I couldn't help feeling sorry for the hotel manager who made this rule. He clearly made up his mind. No changes of booking after arrival. He communicated it to his team. And yet, the moment he turned his back on them, they went right against his intentions. Many leaders feel frustrated that employees just don't seem to do as they are told. These managers complain, "We've communicated it several times, and yet people still don't do it." If you want people to follow your lead, never underestimate the importance of transparency and partnership. And here are my practical suggestions as to how to do it. Firstly, always explain the why. Always talk about the rationale behind the decision, why you would like to change a certain thing. For example, in this story, the hotel manager could have told the staff, "Listen guys, in the last months, our kitchen staff was put under enormous pressure because of last-minute changes in the number of guests taking the buffet supper. Now, this is not sustainable. In order to make planning better and more realistic, I would like to introduce a new rule: no last-minute changes in the booking." Second, give more propositions and fewer directives. It's much easier for your colleagues to be engaged with a certain decision if it wasn't imposed on them. So instead of making the decision on your own and then expecting others to implement them, how about involving your colleagues a bit more instead of presenting everything as a done deal? Try introducing change by saying, "Guys, this is the plan we propose and here is why. Can you get on board with this idea? What are your thoughts?" Giving propositions instead of directives will give people a certain level of control, and that will greatly increase their level of engagement with any change. But will people actually make some comments, or will they just silently disagree? Well, this question brings us to our next point. Number 3, create a dialogue instead of using one-way communication. When I want to introduce any change, even a seemingly trivial one, and I'm not entirely sure how people would be reacting, I always call the colleague who would be impacted, tell them about my plans, and ask what they think. And if this change might impact several people, then I bring the subject up at our next team meeting and I have a proper discussion about the impending change rather than informing them in writing. This might sound like a lot of investment of time, but trust me, it's worth your effort, because eventually you will save so much more time and energy when your team members will pull in the same direction and achieve amazing things without you having to control all the time. So to sum it all up, consider your own leadership habits. Just think of the last couple of months and think back to all the changes, big ones and small ones too, that you introduced in your organization. First of all, did you always thoroughly explain the why? Secondly, did you offer these plans as propositions rather than directives? And thirdly, did you create a dialogue rather than using one-way communication channels? Did you have calls and meetings rather than informing your team members in writing? And what was your experience? How successful were those changes? How much did you manage to create buy-in in your team? We are also extremely curious about your own best practices in this area. So if you have any tips and tricks, don't forget to share them with us in the comment section below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, give us the thumbs up and don't forget to hit the subscribe button, because we'll be back with new leadership videos in 2 weeks' time. See you!